Welcome everyone. So I think I met some of you during our first session which we had on last Monday with Sean, who did on like presentation on open data, open moon, the lunar economy. So it was an interesting session. So today we are having the second virtual session, which is on how to choose the best challenge for your team, right? So this is a very important topic, and we are having this kind of virtual session to prepare you guys for the hackathon on October 4th and 5th. So this will be hopefully this will be a useful session, and we have our mentor, Toronto mentor, Kali Ziniuk. So she's going to do the presentation, and she's a Space Apps Collective since 2023, and also she's a NASA Space Apps Navigator, I think this year. So she's also serving as a global judge. So without further ado, let me give the control to Kali. So it's all yours. Thank you, Kali.
Hi, everyone. So I hope to see you in person on the day. I'm happy to be joining you um, up at the hangar. I've been there a couple of times for other events, and it's an incredible facility. So if you haven't checked out where you're going to be in on the day of the hackathon, I highly recommend it. I will, as you heard. I will be helping you as a mentor in Toronto, but I have had a long relationship with NASA Space Apps. I have been a competitor. I have been a navigator, which means I work on the Universal team, and I help check out all the challenges, and I am a judge for the Universal Global judge. So that's one of the reasons that I'm here. Is I always love to give you guys the inside scoop. As you can see from the opening slide, you're welcome to chat with me. My link tree is there, and from my link tree you can get all of my things. As you may have read in the bio, I am an educator first. I am a statistics and mathematics teacher. Um, so I'm going to be very broad in terms of what the challenges are about, but I'm more than happy to chat with you. I know all of the challenges. I've checked out all of the challenges. I have made sure that all the resources for the challenges work. And I can even give you some hints as to things that you might want to find out in the next couple of weeks before the hackathon. So the theme of the hackathon actually is always really important because the designers of the challenges like to play with that theme. You may know last year's theme was about Helio's big year, so it was all about the sun. And this year, they're really poking on this idea of learn, launch, and lead. So I have used that in my presentation today, and hopefully you'll find that somewhat interesting. The goal, as you just heard, is for me to hint to you what the challenges are. Perhaps you know the challenges were released officially with all of their components on Tuesday. So you are getting these hot off the presses uh, on Thursday. So that's pretty lucky. You're going to get the inside of all of this, and hopefully you'll find some of this helpful. If some of it isn't your cup of tea, that's okay. We'll move on to the next few things. I'm going to try and go through, and I'm hoping somebody will help me to navigate chat while I do the slides as well. But I'm more than happy to try and answer some of your questions at the end if we have some time. So it is highly recommended that your team be between 4 and 5 people. That is a classic size of team. If you have worked on hackathon before, really anything more than that, and you start to trip all over each other. So the NASA Space Apps recommends 4 to 5 people. Most winning teams are around that amount. Any fewer than that, and you're really doing way too much work. So if you have a team of 4 to 5 people, you're in luck. If you're not, there are places right on the NASA Space Apps website to garner new teams, to encourage new people. It is not all of the people have to be in the same place. But if you're doing a local challenge, you need to make sure that you agree that your challenge is centered in the area that you are. So I really do recommend that you work together with 4 to 5 people. It is classic for many people to believe that they want to be sort of buddies ahead of time. In many ways, the best teams are teams that come with different skills, that they have different experiences, that they have different interests, and what their strengths are complement each other. So it is really helpful. I'm going to begin to talk throughout this challenge about things you can do beforehand. As you know, you are not allowed to compete on the actual, build your actual components beforehand, but there are many things you can do beforehand. And one of them is to get to know your team members. So I'm going to hit that several times and tell you again what things you can do beforehand, what things are completely permitted for you to work on ahead of time. Again, the first thing is to try to make a team that has different skills, interests, strengths, and experiences. What makes your team unique? So what is unique about your team? Again, thinking about this idea of learn, launch, and lead. So what makes your team unique? What does your team know that the other teams might not? What experiences do you have? How can you put people on your team that complement each other? Can you give them individual roles that would allow them to do that? Once you've chosen a team, the next part is to choose a challenge. Now, many times people choose a challenge and then go looking for a team. That is possible. But it is often really good to know your team members and then go to choose a challenge. Today, I'm going to show you some of the challenges I think will work best for people who have a broad understanding of space, or even an understanding of space that can be quite narrow. So I'm going to go and hit those two. But if you're looking over the challenges, again, they were released on Tuesday, you might decide to start by filtering them. There are a series of filters, and I'll hint those to you a bit. I'm not going to just go through the website. You know that. That's easy enough for you guys to do. But really do use the filters. The filters will tell you things that you might want to know about the field. So what do you already know about some of the areas? What are your individual skills or interests? How experienced are you working with data? How skilled are you at dealing with animation? Are you interested in doing a pitch? Are you interested in doing something very creative? So what are things you know about? What are the things your individual team has individual skills and interests and think that they could do in a weekend? So the theme of the hackathon is learn, launch, and lead. So I'm going to, over on the left-hand side, you'll notice this engineering model. Now, maybe many of you remember this engineering model from your learning days, or maybe you're still learning about it. But this really is the method I think you really want to think about ahead of time for the hackathon. You'll see it if you want to go look at the boot camp later on. You'll see it because it's mine. My video on the NASA Space Apps talks a lot about this model. But I want to think with you that it is a cycle and it is a circle, and that circle will go around in engineering. So what is really important is first identify your problem. So that is choose your challenge, and then do your research. Both of those things can be done before the hackathon. In my hint, today. Do it today, do it tomorrow. Start to look at your problem and you can do research. You're completely allowed to do research ahead of time. So when you're thinking about a challenge and you're thinking about what you might identify as a problem, what areas could you do less research on? Or what area do you know how to research quickly? What area would you have liked to learn about? What area do you still want to learn about? What area is able to launch? Really, Space Apps is all about finding a gap and filling it. So can you find a gap? Do you know where to fill it? When you read a challenge, when you go over the challenges with your teammates, do one of you have something that makes you unique? What could make you be a leader for this hackathon? Then the generate part of that might happen before the hackathon. The ideas that are percolating in your head, but don't start to build anything. You definitely don't want to get to that prototype area, and certainly not much generating of anything like a code or a design. You don't want that to happen before the hackathon. But ideas, themes, big overall principles, definitely that can happen in the next week or two. So your idea is to start with your problem, identify your problem by choosing your challenge, poke around at the research. I'll show you today how to go start that. And then leave the bottom half of that cycle, the red, orange, green, and most especially that gorgeous teal for the days on the weekend of October 4th and 5th. So you'll notice this is a picture from the website, and you'll notice up in that bright yellow bar is the area that we have been so happy about. I have spent many, many, many months waiting to share with you those challenges. So when I got to read them, I think you'll be fascinated. There's some brilliant challenges this year. I'm pretty excited to share them with you. So those challenges statements went fully live on Tuesday with all of the resources available to you. This should be an opportunity for you to peek around. Make sure that you use the resources key that you see at the top here. That is going to also provide you with a ton of work. All of that can be done ahead of time too. So poke and look at resources, see what is available to you. And as soon as you do that, that will start to help you prepare. Doing all of that ahead of time and documenting what you're thinking, completely permitted. So this is a key of what the resources look like. I'm not going to show you tons of things, but I did want to point out to you a couple of things. The virtual bootcamp is really worth your time. You get some little talks like you had last week and the talk from me. We're only going to give you an hour at a time. The virtual bootcamp has hours of video for years, folks like me, helping you narrow in. My video is pretty in the bootcamp is watched by lots of folks. We know that the winning teams use the virtual bootcamp to help them narrow in. In particular, I encourage you to watch that global offers area. You'll see where it says global offers playlist coming soon. Really, we would expect in the next few days for the global offers to be available to you. That you may only get them right before that. Last year they were delayed, so we might see them. But if you can sort of double back to those, the global offers can be really helpful to see what is available for you for free. In addition, what I've shown you on below is the NASA Space Apps Hackathon tips and tricks, which is part of the virtual bootcamp. There are many, many videos there. A couple of them, I don't know how much you got into. I didn't have a chance to listen last week, but the data universe, if you're interested in any data challenge, the tour of data universe is really helpful, which you can see is there's video 27. There's many videos in that series, lots and lots of them, tips, tricks, and all of them relevant. You can see my video on the bottom. They're just done by navigators, judges, designers to take you through the hackathon experience. I highly recommend. Most of them are quite short. You can see that the data universe is a bit longer, but most of the videos that we have built are within 2 or 3 minutes. So they're quite lovely and easy to watch, and you can put them on, you can make a little playlist yourself. So I'm going to start to talk about the challenges. While I talk about the challenges, I'm going to intersperse with some images and examples of challenges that won last year. So we have I'm very, very proud to say 2 challenges from Canada were global winners. And in fact, 2 of them were incredible pieces. And I really want to make sure that you have a chance to peek at those. Reminder that I'm not privy to those uniquely. Anyone can go and look at any of the winning challenges. So I'm going to talk to you about this year's challenges and intersperse with that some of the ones that have won before. One of the nice things about looking at the ones that have won before is that it can give you a sense for what makes a really good response, what makes a good winning entry. So I know that a couple of the folks on here are big into coding and data. If you are a coder or a data developer, I'm going to poke at 2 challenges. Point directly at 2 challenges I think you should pay attention to. The first one is called Build a Biology Knowledge Engine. It is available to a brand new performer in NASA Space Apps and brand new competitor. You'll notice that it says in the difficulty range that it could be done by beginner or youth. That means that really the experience level of this is broad. You're welcome to try it out. What is interesting here is this one encourages you to use AI and machine learning. Some of the challenges do not. You'll notice later about what is expected in this regard. But it does expect you to build a dynamic environment that allows you to summarize bioscience, allows the researchers to use the results of experiments through a little engine. So this is a great challenge that if you have some experience with coding, that you could try without a ton of space knowledge. Notice over under subjects that this one doesn't have specific tech expectations, and certainly not much astrophysics or space knowledge. It does encourage you to know something about flora and fauna, but it is not required. Those subject tags that you see over on the right, they can be helpful in your filtering and also in seeing whether someone in your team can handle all of that. For example, you'll notice the biology knowledge engine has data management and the one below has data visualization. So maybe you want to decide where is your strength. Another challenge that I am super excited to see the results of is Meteor Madness. So we know that Impactor 2025 poses a threat. I think that's always a fun way to write it. What does it mean to have an asteroid near Earth? What can the US Geological Survey data and NASA's data tell you about modeling asteroid impact? What would a visualization, a simulation tool look like to model asteroid impact? What would be potential mitigation strategies? So this is if you're in your Armageddon phase and you want to, build a little idea of how to solve the problem of a meteor. This is a good one for you. Both of these I recommend for some teams that have pretty strong interest in coding. These are data-based challenges, and these are the two that I chose if you consider yourself a coder or a data developer. Last year, the global winners ranged all over the world. So you can see I have chosen 3 for you to glance at: galactic impact, local impact, and best use of storytelling. There are 40 global finalists, and then you can see I'm going to show you a couple of global winners, and then I'll use these as jumping points for the current challenges. So we are super excited to tell you that the team that won best use of science last year is right from Waterloo, Ontario. In the Toronto hackathon last year, we had several teams build an ORI, which is this challenge. So creating an ORI web, was a popular challenge. It was very, very interesting. You did need to understand science. In particular, you needed to understand planet movement. But we had some wonderful challenges. Wonderful teams do this challenge. I thought I would show you what it looks like, what the submission looks like, and what this winning team from just around the corner looked like. So you can see that they present a little paragraph. So the challenge was done at Waterloo, but the students were from Western. They're part of Western meteor physics, so they have an understanding of planetary physics and movement. They had an understanding of the material before they went, and then they were able to create a web app. This is what they presented. So this is what it looks like at the end once you've finished your challenge. I assume that some of you have never done this before. So you'll notice that you don't write a ton. You write a very small project summary. You do a project demonstration. You can have a small prototype. You show the details of your project. Usually that's technological. You explicitly state how you have used AI, and you explicitly note what NASA data you have used. So the project summary can be a demonstration, and many of the winning teams, if you check it out, will be a demonstration by means of a video. Then the project can be also seen. If it is code like this one, you'll see a link to code. It will not need to be a fully working program. You only have 2 days, but it will give you a sense, if you want to look at last year's winners, to give you a sense for what it can be great about a project and what can win a project without being completely finished. But I thought I would show you what the project demonstration looked like of an ORI. And you'll notice that it's quite small. Let's hope this loads. It's taking a long time. So I thought I would show you that the video is pretty small and is really just a video of what the ORI does. You'll notice that this one has no audio and has really nice built-in text rather than just audio and closed captioning. They model showing how their program works. The point of this that can be great is they can show all of its best features, as I'm sure many of you have seen before. So then they show you some features, they show you what comes up, and they have this all synchronized. When you're thinking about your hackathon experience, you want to be thinking about what this will look like at the end. So don't just think about making your program work. That can be a big place where people forget that in fact the presentation is the first thing your judge will click on. It is the most obvious thing, and really you have a very small amount of time to get it to work. So when you are thinking about what your project will be, don't just think about, oh, I need some code to work, but rather, what is your video going to look like? What are some highlights you can show? And this one is so strong because the text that supports the visual is simple and direct, and the visual that it creates demonstrates only the highest features of their ORI. So I really like that one. Obviously, it won Best Use of Science. Perhaps you consider yourself to be a designer or a creator. Well, there's two challenges I've chosen for you that I want to highlight. The ISS, we are happy to share some of our experience here in Canada. So we are very, very proud of many of the components of the ISS that are based in Canada. And the ISS turns 25 this year. So as part of NASA Space Apps, they are asking you to create a visual tool that will help students and the public understand the sensory experience, weightlessness in the lens of the cupola. So I know that many students, when I have shared the pictures from the cupola, and even if you listen to some amazing stories, if you listen to Chris Hadfield explain his experiences on the cupola, it is truly transformative. So the challenge for this is to think about weightlessness and viewing from the cupola, the window to the world. So this is really incredible. I highly recommend you think about this one. If you are a designer, particularly someone who knows something about graphic design, if you have someone who would be interested in doing things particularly for children, perhaps making a game, or know something about education, you'll also need someone to talk about physical body and how your body interacts with space. You'll see that one of the tags is ergonomics. And you should recognize that this challenge has a difficulty rating of intermediate. So they really do think that you should come with some of this knowledge up front. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be a superstar. It doesn't mean you have to know all of those things up front. But certainly this isn't a challenge that they would recommend for youth or for children. The second challenge I think would be wonderful if you are a designer, relates quite clearly to the one above. So this idea of what is a home in space? What does it look like? What does a habitat in space look like? What might you do in order to create it? They have been very open-ended with this one. I recommend you think about it a lot. If it was me, but maybe because I'm a mathematics teacher, the geometry here and the visuals here would be important to think about shape and volume and layout. This is also an intermediate challenge, and it's squarely in the intermediate phase. They know that to build this is going to take some work. You're going to have to want to do a visual of this, but you'll recognize less in terms of space knowledge and scientific knowledge. Still ergonomics because you are talking about movement in space, but less overall. I thought you might find this one helpful to look at an actual challenge. If you haven't yet looked at a challenge, I'll give you a peek of what it looks like before you join it. So this is what it looks like on the other side. Once you've clicked on it, you can click on it, you can see the challenge. It gives you a summary, the same summary you have. You can see the subjects, and it gives you a place to join. But also, you can watch a video by the designers of the challenge. So I'm going to hopefully this streams nicely for you because there is audio, but I've also closed captioned it.
Hi, I'm Dan Perry, and I support the Habitation Systems Development Office at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center. Welcome to our challenge called Your Home in Space, the Habitat Layout Creator. With this challenge, we're asking the question, what does it take to live in space? Not just visit, but live, work, sleep, eat, and thrive. In space, your habitat is your lifeline. It's your home. It must manage waste, control temperature, deliver oxygen, support communication, and still leave room to eat, exercise, sleep, and work. It protects you from the harsh space environment and enables you to execute your mission. Your challenge: create a visual tool that lets users define the shape and volume of a space habitat and explore various possible layouts to support human life. The tool can help users understand the functions of a habitat and how layouts can be reconfigured or scaled to support different crew sizes and mission durations.
Hi, my name's Anand Reddy. So let's walk through a habitat, or at least a mock-up of one. Designers are really interested in looking at the physical layout beforehand to understand the placement of spaces inside and how we can optimize that. So for example, I need to grab these logistics over here, but unfortunately, Scott's taking a nap down here. So I either need to think of a different place to keep my logistics, or I need to reconsider where I want my crew sleeping altogether. These type of design trade-offs exist everywhere inside habitats, whether I'm looking to get more elbow room, or I'm trying to ensure that the placement of my bathroom is in compliance with NASA standards. In order for crew to live here, all of this must be considered.
I'm Tracy, and I work in Habitat Systems Development. In summary, your tool should help visualize a habitat's interior layout and show how it can be modified to reshape what is possible. In choosing to accept this challenge, your efforts can help pave the way for future exploration beyond Earth. Join the NASA Space Apps Challenge and help us build the future of living and working in space.
So when you take a look, that's an example of each of the challenges has a short video like that. You'll recognize that it is by actual NASA folks who have explored the challenge. They will give you experiences. I encourage you, if you're thinking about any challenge, be very mindful of each word that is chosen. Each of those videos is done with a ton of care. In addition, you'll notice that that challenge, for example, this one here, has a host of academic resources. As I showed you, some of them will have additional technological resources for you, but this one in particular has a series of academic articles. You'll see those in the first and third. There are many more down below. All of that can be read ahead of time. You can read all of those papers before. You cannot do any designing, but you can do a lot of thinking and encouraging. You can do a lot of highlighting. You can do a lot of circling. You can do a lot of clipping and taking parts of it. And in addition, I'm going to highlight for you, take a notice that they will give you Moon to Mars architecture definition document. So you'll hear him in the back half of that video talk about the areas that NASA has definition on what must happen with waste and how much room they need to have. You'll notice that that document, the Moon to Mars architecture definition document, will give you all of the pieces you need for that future mission. That will allow you to look at what is already existing. Remember, your goal is to find a gap. So you're going to try and make something, in particular, the word on this one is modify. So they talk a lot about the visual design and then some modification. So take a look at those. Highly recommend you reading any and all of the references, any in particular the data, get to understand what's available already to you. It's very common to have lots of folks who are interested in building an animation. So I thought I would share with you two that I think would be incredible. But recognize that your animation is not enough, that really, in terms of animation, you need to be a really strong storyteller. Remember, the theme of this year's hackathon is learn, launch, and lead. And that learn word is pretty key here. You're really trying in these two challenges to tell a great story. You'll notice that storytelling is one of the tags. Please, if you're thinking about building a challenge that has storytelling, recognize that you need to have someone on your team who is strong in terms of making a narrative, who can make your pitch engaging. that will allow your team to shine not only in their technical strengths, but also in how they can engage the public. Both of these challenges are very appealing and would allow anyone, beginner to advanced, to do this one. So I'll show you two, I'll explain them just briefly. So this is NASA's Earth viewing satellite. I think it's interesting. A lot of folks often forget that not only does NASA look up, but we look down. That NASA's oldest Earth viewing satellite, Terra, is 25 years old. There's a lot of 25-year-old anniversaries here in 2025. And there's a bunch of imagery and data that Terra has collected. So our challenge is to use the data from Terra to make an animated story. Isn't that amazing? The idea of thinking about Terra's story as it might impact you. And maybe it's just me, but I see this one highly as one that would be wonderful to share with children. Then, stellar stories. As I think this one is a holdover from last year, from Helio's big year. We know the excitement of the aurora, especially living in Canada. The solar activity, so you can look at the idea of space weather through the eyes of the earthlings. So what is the impact that space weather has on people? What does it mean to have a solar flare, a coronal mass ejection? So think about that. Tell the story of the perspective of a single person. It's very clear that this one talks about from the perspective of a person. This is one I recommend. Again, if you have someone who is a great storyteller, you would want to storyboard this whole thing before you ever started animating. Maybe you are really into science. Maybe science is your thing. If there are two areas of science that I wanted to highlight, these are also, the first one is one that would relate to animation as well. But both of these I think are quite clever. They would use data in interesting ways, visualizing data, managing data, analyzing data. The top one is much more curious. This would be NASA Earth data. If you haven't experienced NASA Earth data, Bloomwatch has all of the connections to NASA Earth you would want. It will give you information on how Earth's vegetation is changing. And this is a dynamic display. So you're looking to talk about how plants bloom. Please take a look if this speaks to you. You may want to think about yourself as a pollinator. I think this one would also be one that would be interesting to talk about describing. So you'll notice that writing and communication is here. Animation is here. This is one you might want to think about the world from the outside, thinking about it like a bee. Embiggen your eyes. I love this one. This was a really good one. This is to create a platform that allows users to zoom in and out on massive data sets. So looking at all of the gorgeous images that we have on the NASA platform, particularly NASA Plus. Take a look at the images we have, and so how can we look at what is possible in these incredible data sets? What can we look? How can we find patterns in them? I think if you were interested in this challenge, you must have a pretty good understanding of web development. You probably want to make sure you understand pretty significantly how imagery, photography, videography, data imagery, that sort of scope. You'd want to make sure this one is a beautiful challenge. The resources on this are incredible. I don't know if I could do this one because I would be too distracted by looking at all the gorgeous images that you have at NASA Images. This in particular, I would encourage you, if you're thinking about this one, to choose a handful of images and work on those. Make sure what you're building works really well on a handful of incredible images. Don't just take the first couple you find. If you were able enough to use some from the Canadian Space Agency, we wouldn't stop you. Last year, the team that won the Global Connection was from Saskatoon. Maybe some of you looked at the exoplanet challenges from last year. This is a team that won for navigating the habitable worlds. So I'll show you a little bit about that.
Hey guys, we are Team Asteroid Destroyer. We present you our solution for the NASA Space Apps Challenge, where we produce a mapping for characterizable exoplanets in our galaxy. On the left, we have designed an interface for astronomers to specify the telescope configuration and the type of planet they're searching for, classified using 4 different custom predicted categories that aligns with NASA's exoplanet categories. The visualization displays spheres highlighting the planets that match with these filters. We can select each planet to display its information on the right, which includes general data for users. We also have the habitability factor predicted by an LLM. You can see in this 3D space, we've enabled camera movement throughout the scene. Thank you for watching our solution demo and hope you liked it.
So notice that that's a demo. It's very clearly, it's only 44 seconds. It's not a very long video. It doesn't show absolutely everything. That means that only those pieces need to work. Now, they do submit the code, but what I wanted to show you about this is really nice, really tight, shows it off. The marking has a little bit of audio. It's a bit of a different challenge. Again, this one to global connection. So I think that's a really beautiful one to show off. Highly recommend you check out all of the winners from last year. You can go back many years, but these two in particular are quite stunning. And of course, they're from Canada, so I wanted to share them with you. As we head towards the end, I want to talk to you about the two that I think may challenge many of you, and in particular, the one that if you know someone who is coming to Space Apps New and is interested only in experiencing what it means to be in Space Apps. So the deep dive is talking about ocean to sky relationship. If you have experience with work, animation in particular for VR, if you know how to analyze and manipulate VR experiences, this one is looking at NASA Earth again. It's looking at the data sets from NASA Earth and connecting ocean data to VR. So this would be a beautiful one if you've ever used VR, if you know how to code with AR, with VR, particularly animation, and know how to use data. If you have someone on your team who has some of those skills, I think this is the one that I would try out. It's a beautiful one. And I actually think fewer people will try this because there's a lot here. This is also a storytelling challenge. So if you have someone who could, again, storyboard your challenge, I think this would be one I would try. If you don't see, if you have something you want to do and you want to create your own challenge, you're welcome always to do that. The Canadian Space Agency is very keen to encourage you to do that. However, there may be situations in Toronto where we will share that more broadly, but it is not eligible for global judging. You cannot win an award on a create your own challenge, but that is a great experience to just sort of experience something. In particular, if you have a thought of having children, young people come just to try what it means to do a hackathon for 2 days, this might be one where they can't go all the way to building a full challenge, but they want to try and build something. We have seen children build board games. In some situation here, we have seen children do some smaller components of code. So, but it is not just children. If there's something that you would like to sort of bring to the attention of folks, this is one area you can do, and you can always do that. And there's a place to include that. The Canadian Space Agency is very keen to see the work that you have created. It will get your views and opinions shown broadly. Reminder that we do encourage you to very clearly use NASA data. A reminder that you can also use any data from any of the global partners, including the European Space Agency or the Canadian Space Agency are the two that you might be able to find the most readily. JAXA, of course, and all the other ones as well. So I also wanted to show you the one that is the best use of data. This is an American challenge. This is also a global winner. You'll notice it at the sort of layer at the bottom. So this is one that we had two in Toronto do incredibly with this one, and this is an incredible project. This project is going to be something in real life, no doubt. And you'll see it when I show you the video. You'll be amazed by it. So this is water conservation tracking. It uses the data by NASA's Open Evo Transpo. So I'll show you it. It's incredible. It lets farmers map their field and how much water is going to be for the next 7 days, personalized for their area. I mean, it's an incredible idea. It's brilliant. It is also using AI. So you'll see over on the right, you'll see what had to be submitted, as I showed before, the summary, the project demo, the project, the details of the project, the use of AI, explicit use of AI, which is permitted. You just need to declare how you've used it, what NASA data you used, if you've used any other. No, so the other one we showed you clearly they didn't, but in this one they might have used space agency partner or data from another place. And in this case, I'm quite confident that this one is using NOAA data. So very quickly show you this one. It's 30 seconds, so it's very fast, as long as it loads.
WaterWise, for better farm water management, easily monitor weather and field hydration at a glance, track irrigation task, status, and overall crop health. To add a new field, navigate on the map, enter crop type, growth stage, irrigation system, and specific flow rate. Map out your field, and WaterWise will calculate precise water requirements and irrigation times for the next 7 days. Ask Sprout AI, our custom-engineered chatbot, any questions about your fields for more advice. WaterWise, get your farm's water usage
So I wanted
right.
to show you this one because this one makes it like a pitch. So this is quite lovely. I mean, this is clearly folks who have a brilliant idea that they are going to be able to move beyond NASA Space Apps, but this is a brilliant use of data. And I couldn't say, I mean, this within 2 seconds of looking at this, and you can see it's incredibly strong. It's beautifully made. And has a charm about it. Also using AI many places. So you're welcome to check that out. I encourage you. I have chosen 3 global winners. There are, of course, many. I encourage you to take a look at them and why they win the different ones they were. So this is the best use of data. So I'm so proud of myself when I finished at 9:15. I wanted to make sure that I had 15 minutes and I did it with perfect timing. I wanted to make sure I had some time to answer your questions. Any thoughts? I can't promise that I know it all. I know the challenges and I know how NASA Space Apps works, but I don't know all of NASA data. I can't know that. And I don't think there's very many people that know that, but I'm more than happy to stay here and answer any of your questions.